Good afternoon and welcome to episode 7 of Stu and Coco. And in this episode, we'd like to welcome Helen Knight and Jack Mantle of our partner charity Movement Centre. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for giving up your Friday afternoon on a sunny day to be in the indoor. Yes, on a Friday afternoon staring at a computer screen. We're going to spend some time today talking about the launch of our new Inspirational Business Award or Inspirational Business Leader Award. And we're going to be covering some of the topics that are pertinent. We're going to be talking about the Movement Centre, who the Movement Centre are, what you guys do, and what makes you different. We're going to look at some of the challenges that you've found over the COVID period and how you've dealt with them. And we talked a little bit earlier, Jack, didn't we, about some of the innovative things that you've done personally.
Yeah.
I think we should also talk about how interfacing with the NHS has over the period been both a blessing and maybe at times a curse for you guys, and how that can be improved. And then come on again to look at the award and what it means to you guys and how we can best launch it. So can I kick off with either yourself or Jack or Helen? Tell us a bit more about the Movement Centre and the good work that you guys do.
Go on, Jack.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us what you do.
Yeah. So at the Movement Centre, we provide a specialist therapy, and that's called targeted training therapy. So it was actually pioneered at the Movement Centre, and as far as I'm aware, we're the only centre certainly in the country that does it, but even across the globe, people practice similar sort of elements of it, but we're the actual only national centre for it. So we see children from far and wide with lots of different conditions, but primarily like ones that affect their movement control. And it's the therapy that we offer. It uses some equipment as well, so they get a standing frame that's bespokely made to them, but it then, through assessments with ourselves first, it means that we can target specific areas of their trunk that we need to, and it works in a nice kind of segmental approach to it. So from the head down, we hopefully see progress with their functional skills as well as their control. Unfortunately, as you touched upon, it's not available through the NHS, so we're a slightly separate entity in that sense, but it's a really good complementary therapy. So the research that we've got, which Lynn, who has been at the Movement Centre since, she was there when I started, and I think
time began
the longest running one. She has got data from all the children we've seen over the years, 20 plus years, and the results are like we kind of defy what should be happening according to kind of predictive scales. So it can be really life-changing for the children, and as I said, like as a complementary, as an adjunct to their normal NHS therapy. So we're big on working with the NHS, not against the NHS in any way, shape or form. I've come from the NHS previously and I love what it stands for, but I also know the kind of time constraints that staff there have, so we can offer an additional bit of support for those children, and it's really good. We get children come from far and wide, as I said, Scotland, travelling down to see us. It's mad, really. And
it's worth saying to all of our viewers that you're based in a very, very pretty part of the world on the Welsh borders in Oswestry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're looking at some pictures earlier of nice green fields.
Yes, we're very rural here, Tony. Very rural.
Yeah,
in
lovely.
fact, it's quite the where we are. We're based on a hospital site, the Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt Hospital, which is a hospital of excellence, which is an NHS hospital. It deals with orthopaedic care. And do you know what? We're really lucky to have it here in Shropshire because we are a sort of a bit of an unknown county. But people travel to the orthopaedic for surgery, spinal surgery, hips, knees, etc., from all over the country to see us. And we have a very small little unit out the back to offer this service. We used to be funded by the NHS till 2019. They withdrew our funding, just basically due to cost, which is why we became so reliant on charitable donations. But so we sit as part of a much bigger hospital in a very, very rural county, which isn't easy to get to. because we don't have any train. Well, the nearest train station is about 5 or 6 miles away, and I think there's a bus that comes past every couple of hours. So it's in the middle of nowhere.
But a lovely place to be. I think it's worth letting the viewers know that I'm personally invested. So as the owner of Granite Search, one of my daughters was born with a very rare genetic disorder, which actually wasn't diagnosed for the first 4 or 5 years of her life. And in those 4 or 5 years, we were very lucky that through the endeavours of my wife, we were put in touch with the movement centre. And my little girl went from rolling around on her back to, as a 9-year-old, walking independently.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened without the movement centre. So well done, guys.
And how is she now, Toni? What's she up to these days?
So what's she up to these days? So she still goes to a special school down in Sussex, Dame Vera, well, it's not the Dame Vera Trust anymore, Infield Manor, and they do some fantastic work down there. But the key thing is the starting point of being a very young child, early intervention with your brand of targeted training has been the fundamental difference, which has enabled her to get on her feet. And as we know, you get kids on their feet, and they don't end up with the secondary complications that otherwise they would have had: shallow sockets, issues with limbs. And I'm very, very proud and pleased to say we've had a connection with your charity for at least the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
It really is life-changing stuff for people, isn't it? That's the thing. Being able to go from, not being able to be active to be able to take those steps is just incredible, really. Absolutely incredible.
It's a big game changer. So look, you mentioned it earlier. We talked about how funding has changed for you. 2019 was probably a pivotal year. That's probably been made worse by the COVID situation. Tell us a bit more about that.
So 2019 was actually, though for us it was a big change. NHS funding changes, NHS cuts. It was actually quite a good year, and we had children and families waiting to come in and see us. So we raised just over £300,000 that year, and then we came into this year really, really positively. It was a good start of the year. We had a waiting list of families, etc., and then of course we come into COVID-19, and fundamentally for us it's been massive, because as we've touched on, the treatment that we do is one-to-one. We're close contact. Everything that is COVID for us is an absolute nightmare, basically. And of course, a lot of the children that are coming to see us fundamentally are people that needed to be shielded. So we made the sad decision for us to furlough all our staff and the team, and we decided to give our offices back to the Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt, who had also been asked to support COVID. So they don't have an hospital. Yes, sorry, the Robert Jones and Agnes Hunt, the hospital. Yeah, sorry. So they are not an accident and emergency hospital. They are an elect hospital. They only deal with people that they know are coming in. So they became a COVID. They had a COVID ward. So we said, look, you have our unit back. We're going off site, and that's what happened for us. So the impact for the movement centre is we look to lose £90,000 to £100,000 this year.
Wow.
On fundraising income, which, if you remember what I've just told you, 300,000 in 2019, that's massive for us. But we're not alone, I'm sad to say, Toni. I'd like to say that we're the chosen ones, but we're not. Charities in the sector at the moment, they're talking about £12.4 billion lost during COVID for charities. And I think, charities are like any other business across the UK, across the world, but we have become a service to people that perhaps the NHS or others So there's going to be a massive, massive impact on this, because we cannot continue, not just the Movement Centre, but charities, to offer the same level of services, whether or not that be a cancer charity, whatever, because we haven't got the funding. I was reading this week about Age UK.
Yeah.
Furloughed 70% of their staff due to finances, yet they're absolutely inundated due to COVID in calls and needing help. So we've got really a massive issue. And we are going to be relying on people like you, businesses, organisations who have been loyal, and we need people to continue to be loyal to smaller and national charities, actually, moving forward, because without people putting their hands in their pockets, we just will not be able to carry on. Institute of Fundraising, which is where I am, just to say this, that's where I'm quoting my figures from, who have done obviously a massive amount of research on behalf of charities. 1 in 10 charities are going to go this year.
Wow.
And that's so sad. That's so, so sad. And though, you know, while I've been working within this environment, and I've been very fortunate because I'm a contractor to the Movement Centre, I've continued to work through. There has been government money available to us, and we have been able to make applications for that. But it's tough, and it doesn't replace what we did have. Absolutely. Well, we've cancelled our events, we've cancelled face-to-face fundraising, you know, we've cancelled everything. People are worried about their jobs. People haven't, you know, they're concerned, aren't they? You know, so, you know, the last thing they're going to be doing is putting their hand in the pocket to charities.
Yeah, I've got to say, I did a podcast earlier with Joe Giordano, who does a lot of private sector finance, but he's also on about 3 charitable boards, and he said very similar. He said it's been very challenging, because not only have you got a situation where you can't do the big fundraising shizzles, he said no. you can't press the flesh meet and greet out in the streets, right, with the guys with the bibs.
Yeah.
You can't provide the services anyway, because often the services that are provided are to those who are most vulnerable, especially in your cases.
Yeah.
So you're hit with a number of different situations that hit your revenue streams.
Yeah.
So my question now is, if your revenue stream this year is down by at least a third so far, at least a third, what are you doing in terms of provision to try and supplement that?
Panicking.
Good. In a proactive way.
Yeah. So, I think there is a sense of panic slightly, but I also think that there is a brighter future. I genuinely think that. And I think that because what happened as COVID happened and lockdown happened, the NHS went into a massive marketing machine, and they raised millions and millions of pounds overnight, really, within about 2 weeks, on the NHS Charities Appeal. And we had people like Captain Tom, if you remember, or I think is he a knight now? I think he's been knighted.
Yeah, he went up. Yeah, I was going to say it's not Captain.
Yeah, no, he's not Captain Tom anymore. So apologies for that.
Oh yeah.
So and that massive marketing campaign raised millions and millions. So that took. People gravitated from supporting local charities to this massive machine that was, and we were doing the claps, and everybody was talking about it.
But it is, of course, publicly funded.
It is publicly funded, and I'm very interested to see what happens to all that money, because they have raised millions and millions, and I hope and pray that is spent well. So. But for us, I think things are starting to change, and I think people's perceptions and thought processes are starting to change as life starts to get back to normal a little bit. And I think that all of this local, shop local, keep local, look after, I think that smaller charities like us will pay the benefits of that, and we hope and pray that will happen. because without that, we won't exist. We're very lucky that we have managed our finances well, and we do have a little bit in reserve. So we are in a position that in hopefully the next month or so, we are going to talk about getting back reopen. We're going to be talking about doing a little bit of virtual consulting with some of our children and families. But, fundamentally, we've had to turn to social media, virtual fundraising, but it's crowded. It's absolutely crowded out there. We did very well with the 2.6 challenge. I don't know if you heard about that, but that was on the back of London Marathon.
Yeah.
So
Helen, tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah. So basically, 2.6 challenge was set up by London Marathon, who had all of these people that were due to run. They were doing loads of fundraising. We all know that the London Marathon is run based on fundraising, and all of these charities had bought places. So what they did was that they created a platform, if that's the right word, and they created a tool, what was called the 2.6 challenge, and they set up a website which we could then go on to as charities and promote this event, where people could do anything they wanted around 2.6, being the 26.2 miles of the marathon. So people could run, they could bike, they could run around the garden, they could do whatever. And we did, didn't we, Jack? We did really, really well with that. We got a couple of staff involved. Our fundraiser, actually, Curtis ran around his garden.
Yeah. 2.6 times?
I don't know. No. It's only a small...
I think he worked out the distance, and it was how many laps he had to do of his garden.
That's right. It was a lot. It was over 100, wasn't it? And
so 2.6 miles in terms of laps around his garden.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Amazing. And he raised some good, and then he shaved his hair off after that. And to be fair, this is a guy that, if I shaved my husband's hair off, he wouldn't even notice. But this was a guy with a good, mountain, a bit of a lion, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he shaved his hair off. So that was great. But we also had some local businesses that got behind it. We had some sports groups, and I think we nailed £10,000 out of that.
Wow.
And that was just off the back of London Marathon. Now, interestingly, yesterday and today, actually, so a very similar situation is just about to occur with Ride London. So Ride London is also part of the London Marathon setup, and that is cycle ride around London, hence Ride London, and you can choose to do a 19 mile, 46 or 100. That's what the event should be, miles. And they have just, yesterday we went on a webinar, and they've just launched, and I don't know what it's called yet, but today they launched a similar platform for us as charities to go on to then virtually ask people to support. But, and this is all brilliant, and we did really well out of the 2.6 challenge, and I hope that we do well out of Ride London. But everybody's doing it. It's this virtual thing. Everybody's on Facebook asking for money. All the charities, if you look at it, there's lotteries you can join. They want monthly giving. There's sponsored ads coming up all the time when you say. So do you know what? It's really, really tough. And we are so small. What we do is massive, but we're a small little charity in the range of it. We haven't got, you think about people like Macmillan Cancer Support, who are amazing at what they do, but they touch thousands and thousands of people. So they've got huge audience of people that they can go to and say, we're doing this event, this Ride London event, will you help us? We haven't got that.
One thing you're saying, Lynn, which we Helen, which we talked about earlier, was you mentioned Lynn, who is the longest standing member of the Movement Centre, isn't she?
Might kill me for that.
Right. Now, plug for Lynn. My question is, when we spoke about her and we spoke about length of service, and we looked at her ability to do the stats, to go back to every child that the Movement Centre has helped, and identify them as potentially primary givers, but then what's the potential there in terms of primary givers, but then family and secondary and tertiary networks?
Yeah.
Is there you know, without meaning to be too money making about it, but
No.
could we be in a situation where we could target all of those past recipients of care, then network through them into their secondary and tertiary family, close friends, and build a body of ambassadors for the charity?
Yes, and I am the least negative person in the world, and I might be coming across here as a little bit negative, and I'm not wishing to be. But one of the biggest issues we've got is GDPR. So when a lot of those children came to us, we wouldn't have asked for their permission to market to them. And unless you have gained permission now, that's the new law, to say, can we send you marketing material and can we ask you, you're not allowed to. So unless they are relatively recent to our families that have relatively recently come to us, we are no longer allowed. Just like you, Tony, in business, you can't go to people directly and go, can I have this, can I have that? You're not allowed to do that anymore. So
Helen,
and I was reading about that.
I'll make you an offer now on the podcast.
I love it.
I'm going to make you an offer on the podcast. If we can work a way to contact those people, I'll have our resources contacting those people for us. I'll take on the responsibility of GDPR.
Amazing.
Now the question is, how do we do that without actually breaking legislation? I do know a GDPR specialist. So actually, off the back of this, and if there's anybody watching this podcast who's got any bright ideas, we would welcome them.
We would. Yeah.
Off the back of this, we'll try and do something proactive in terms of being able to contact those people, because ultimately, I would be shocked if any one of them would put in a complaint.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely hear what you say.
Or sue the movement centre for breach of, data protection. I'd be shocked.
Know. Yeah. And there are, you can go down a line of legitimate interest. There are a certain amount of loopholes, but we do have to be really careful. And of course, help like that, Tony. Sometimes it's interesting. Actually, we touch on that little subject. Is that sometimes when we talk to people like yourselves, it isn't always money that we're after. Sometimes it's just professional support, awareness giving, whatever it is. That there's so many people that can help us with so many different things. I think sometimes charities come with this very much, they're only after the money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually, there's skills out there. And I'm working with a chap at the moment that's supporting me personally, in doing a bit of mentoring with me and giving me a bit of his time. He's run a lot of businesses, and I've told him that I wanted to do some strategic planning, and he's been amazing. And that's nothing about money. That's just about him saying to me, look, I see what you do with these charities and I want to support you. And that's amazing, isn't it? And fundamentally, those charities in the end gain from that.
Yeah.
So that would be amazing, Tony. Yeah, if you can support us and think about things like that for us, that would be fantastic.
So that's definitely a commitment from us. And as a nice segue, that brings us nicely on to our award.
Yeah.
So just for all of the viewers who have stuck with us through this, or if you're a new viewer to the podcast, we will be launching in the next fortnight the Inspirational Business Leader Award. And what we're looking for is we're looking for 10 of our clients to do the next 10 podcasts up until Christmas, where we'll be looking for their nominations as to leaders in the construction industry, nationwide, pan-European, who have really shown inspiration and innovation through this challenging period. And that can be in terms of business decisions, that can be in terms of philanthropy, that can be anything that sets them apart from the norm. It's what I term as kind of the beacons of our industry. What we'll be doing over the period, so it will run up until the 18th of December, where we will be collating the figures. But those 10 podcasts, with those different 10 nominations, there'll be likes and shares, and the podcast with the most likes and shares will end up getting £1,000 from us to a charity of their choice. And obviously, in December, we will be giving £2,500 to the Movement Centre as part of this drive. We'd obviously welcome any input from any of our podcast viewers, any suggestions, and obviously any donations are welcome too, aren't they, Helen?
I was just about to put my hand up again. Choose us.
Yeah, choose us. Yeah.
But you know, as I just said, it's not all about the money, but it is. But no, you know, yeah, absolutely, it's so important. And I loved, you know what, Tony? I love the fact that I wrote a few words down from what you wrote in your brief about the award: innovative, inspirational, and you know, that's what the Movement Centre is about as well. These families that come and see us. It's about us inspiring those children to go on, just like your daughter, to take those steps and to have a different way of life. So it's just so nice that, you know, that you're doing something like this, which is in tune with everything that we look to achieve as a charity.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Jack, did you want to say anything else? I'm very conscious that. No, not really. No, you know, as a key member of the team there who actually gets involved in the therapy itself. I mean, is there a final view from you?
I mean, I mentioned earlier with the whole kind of 2019 being that pivotal year. I only actually joined the team in 2019, but similar to what Helen said, I love what it's about when we're there. Seeing the families, the time that you get to spend with them. I'm missing it now at home and during this kind of lockdown, just the connections. So I know Helen also mentioned like the awards party that we hold every year. It's a time where families, like you'd already said yourself, would all be able to get together and share and connect and support one another. So I think everyone's missing everything in that sense. So it is, I mean, really big push by whatever means necessary to try and raise as much funds, awareness of us as what we can, so that when we do eventually open back up, we can just kick on and keep going as strong as before.
Yeah, and fundamentally build that pipeline of children coming back.
Yeah.
To make the most of those services, because ultimately, if we don't do something, those services might not be here next year.
Right. And I think like even thinking about it from the NHS perspective, I think there's, because of the restrictions staff there have had, there is going to be a big backlog of children that at the moment aren't accessing the same level of therapy and care that they would have previously, and they're all going to be growing. I know like over the summer holidays anyways, when you weren't necessarily be able to go into school to treat the children, it was quite a big influx in September. So this has been a big long period where families are now hopefully going to eventually start going back to some level of normality, and there's going to be pressures on the NHS to try and keep up with that and catch back up. And
is it fingers crossed for a gentle return back in September then for you, Jack?
Still waiting on like kind of confirmation on date and stuff. I think the idea is that we gradually try and increase stuff as we can. But yeah, I can't wait to go back. I have had some kind of conversations with the families on days to just touch base with how they are doing, and everyone's doing well. I think everyone's of the same mindset. They're looking forward to coming back and seeing us. They're all keen to, and it's just when we can.
Yeah, when you.
And we have got a waiting list of people. We've got a waiting list of families wanting to start treatment.
Yeah,
Tony,
we've had
good.
Yeah, because of what Jack's just touched on there. You know, services apart from COVID, the NHS virtually had to make a decision to stop any emergency treatment. So there will be families out there that are probably pretty desperate to get some support. So, you know, in some ways, we hope that we can pick some of that up and support the NHS in what they're doing, because they're not going to be able to do it all. Yeah. Definitely not.
Even pre-lockdown, like towards the end of last year, I went out to quite a lot of NHS trusts since starting, and trying to just get more connections, essentially networking, telling them about what it is that we do, some of the statistics, how it is that they can refer to us, or whether families can just contact us directly, just to try and give them that insight into us and how we want to work alongside them. And it got a lot of positive feedback from the therapists that I was talking to, but something that, again, I'm keen to build on when we go back it's in a sense, it's been good doing things like this where you can speak to people and hopefully someone will watch it and resonate with it and think, actually, yeah, that's something that might help me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And fundamentally, the money, Tony, funds these children to have this therapy. You know, that's the sausage machine. It comes in, we see the children, and we pay for Jack and Sarah to give the therapy and to make sure that they get what they need. So, you know, it's absolutely vital. You know, we're very lucky. We're quite lean as a charity in what we actually have to spend to run. You know, we're a very small little team. So, you know, when people give their pound, a massive proportion of that actually goes to that child in the end.
Yeah, to the provision of the service at the cutting edge, which is great, which is what people want to see. Well, it's certainly what I want to see.
Of course, 100%.
Well, in that case, I just want to say fingers crossed for September.
Thank you.
We look forward to hopefully seeing as many likes and positive comments as we can about our award and obviously about this podcast. And listen, thank you very much for your time, Jack and Helen. And fingers crossed for September. Thanks, guys.
Lovely. Thank you, Tony. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.